Donald Trump's war with our friendly neighbors to the north continues to backfire on him in magnificent ways. Because of Donald Trump's tariffs, what the Wall Street Journal called the stupidest trade war in history, we are seeing massive job losses, we are seeing huge market losses, and now we are seeing exploding prices in all sectors. And in the one Donald Trump specifically, he said he'd bring down the most, and that is energy, with an announcement from Ontario Premier Doug Ford that is Donald Trump's nightmare news. And we are going to get into it. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, without further ado, let's hear what this terrible news for Donald Trump is.
For weeks now, we've been faced with so much uncertainty coming from President Trump. Each day brings new tariff threats. Now, President Trump is threatening tariffs on steel and aluminum. He's pointing his finger at dairy and lumber, shifting timelines, different excuses, chaos and confusion. It's hurting workers, it's hurting businesses, it's hurting investments, and it's hurting families on both sides of the border. It needs to end. That's why I've been crystal clear. Until these tariffs are off the table, until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent. We will not back down. Pausing some tariffs, making last-minute exemptions, it won't cut it. We need to end the chaos once and for all. We need to sit down, work together, and land a fair deal. A deal that gives businesses the confidence to invest. A deal that gives workers the security they need and deserve. Until then, Ontario will keep up the fight. We will apply maximum pressure to maximize our leverage. That's why today we're moving forward with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For the 1.5 million American homes and businesses that Ontario powers, homes and businesses in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each and every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans. Let me be clear, I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely. Believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people because it's not the American people who started this trade war. It's one person who's responsible. That's President Trump. I'd rather be working together. I want to sell the U.S. more energy, more electricity, more critical minerals. I want to make Canada and the United States the richest, most successful, safest, most secure two countries on the planet. But as Premier, my number one job is to protect the people of Ontario and in hand protect the people of Canada. I will do whatever it takes. I will fight like I've never fought before to protect Ontario. Friends, none of this makes sense. Costly tariffs against your closest friends and allies do not make sense. The U.S. markets have lost trillions in value. Companies are second-guessing investments into the American economy. American workers' jobs are at risk as we speak right now. Cost of hardworking American families will only go up. It doesn't have to be this way. We are stronger when we work together. I hope we can get back to working together, creating jobs, growing our economies, lowering costs for families in both countries. We don't get there by easing up. We will remain strong. We will be relentless. We will do whatever it takes to protect Ontario.
In addition to these new retaliatory tariffs from China, Canada's tariffs on the U.S. are still in place. Last week, it put a 25% levy on things like beer, fruit and vegetables, shoes, cosmetics, and more. And today, Ontario starts charging a 25% surcharge on electricity to 3 U.S. states, Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. The tariff war and opposition to President Trump has actually unified Canadians. Listen to these remarks from Mark Carney, who's expected to be Canada's next prime minister. He was just elected to head the Liberal Party yesterday, soon potentially to be sworn in as PM.
The Canadian government has rightly retaliated and is rightly retaliating with our own tariffs that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada. And my government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect.
Let's discuss with Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, which is the province that started to impose that surcharge on 1.5 million homes and businesses in the United States. He also ordered all U.S. alcohol to be removed from Ontario shelves. Premier, thank you so much for sharing part of the afternoon with us. What do you hope to achieve with this surcharge? What needs to happen for you to remove it?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on, Boris. And I start off every interview with telling Americans that Canadians love Americans. I love Americans. It's one person that's caused this problem, and that's President Trump. As he is putting tariffs on us, even if he says he's putting it on hold, there's still 60% of goods that are crossing the borders that will be tariffed, and it's hurting both economies. It's hurting the American economy. It's hurting the Canadian economy. Uncertainty is what people don't like hearing in general life, not to mention the markets are tumbling, and investors from around the world are looking twice at America and Canada to invest in. There's no reason for a recession. I call it the self-made Donald Trump recession. He ran on a mandate to lower prices, to make sure we didn't have inflation, to create more jobs, and it's backfired. So let's sit down at the table and let's start working on a new USMCA deal. Even though President Trump said it was the greatest deal he's ever made, nothing's changed, so I guess it's not the greatest deal now.
His argument would be that he's trying to remake the American economy, to produce more goods that are currently imported into the U.S. here at home. With these electricity surcharges, you say that the move is designed to protect your province. The administration, if they see it as an escalation and they reciprocate with tariffs on lumber, steel, and dairy, ultimately, doesn't that hurt your constituents?
No, we're looking at negotiating through strength. If he cuts off the lumber or puts a tariff, do you know whose costs are going up? It's the American people that want to buy a home. They're going to pay more for their home, or steel that they need, or aluminum that is only 16% of aluminum is manufactured in the U.S. They rely on over 60% aluminum to come down there for their goods. High-grade nickel coming out of Ontario. That 50% of the high-grade nickel for your military, aerospace, and manufacturing comes from Ontario. And the list keeps going on and on and on, not to mention the 4.3 million barrels of crude oil that we ship down every single day. So I believe in building an AMCAN fortress. Let's make sure that we focus on having the two greatest countries in the world, the most prosperous, the richest, the safest. The problem's not Canada, it's China right now. And he has to keep an eye on China.
I do want to ask you about the question of fairness, and specifically on one claim, because I've heard it from Trump and a number of officials in his administration, most recently Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He argues that Canada has a 255% tariff on dairy imports. The administration has cited that over and over again. Is that number accurate? Do you think it's fair for American dairy farmers?
Well, what I'd like to do is sit down and discuss these issues with them at a USMCA table. What I will tell you this, if we take the 4.3 million barrels a day that we ship down there to keep your economy going off the balance sheet, the U.S. has a $56 billion surplus, a trade surplus with Canada. I'm okay with that. That's fine. Things were going fine. Everything was moving forward. Market was going up a little bit. Everyone was optimistic. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he wants to attack his closest neighbor and ally. And his number, I call, or their number one customer. You don't attack your number one customer and expect the results that he thought were going to happen. Protectionism does not work, especially between Canada and the U.S. Maybe you should take a page out of Ronald Reagan's book.
Premier, I do want to ask you about Mark Carney. He is in line to become the next prime minister. We saw Justin Trudeau's relationship with Trump evolve and then ultimately degrade. How do you think Mark Carney is going to approach President Trump?
Well, Mr. Carney is a very, very bright individual, and it's up to Mr. Carney to build that relationship with President Trump. They're both bright people. Let's make no mistake about it. Agree or disagree with President Trump. He understands finances. So does Mark Carney, and so do I. We're business people, and if we sit down around the table, we can resolve the problem and make sure that both countries prosper, like the likes of which this country's never seen, or the likes of which the U.S. has never seen, if we work together.
One of Donald Trump's biggest promises is that he would lower the cost of energy. Does a 25% tariff on electricity, does the idea that the electricity to the Midwest will be shut off sound like lowering the cost of energy to you? I don't think so. What we have to be very clear about in how we present not only Donald Trump's failures, but all our alternatives is how little he cares. And it is not enough to just say that Donald Trump is screwing up. People can feel that. People know that Donald Trump is screwing up when they go to the grocery store. They now know that Donald Trump is screwing up when they get their electric bill. They know Donald Trump is screwing up when they look at their 401k, right? We have to present not only the alternative option of how Democrats will respond to and fix all of Donald Trump's failures, but the fact that he truly does not care. There are too many clips at this point of Donald Trump admitting, yeah, we're going to see some inflation. Yeah, we're going to see prices rise. Most recently, yeah, there's going to be a recession. Donald Trump does not care. He wants to, in his words, transition the economy. I don't know to what. I certainly know from what. From a booming economy to something much worse. But that economy, as we can expect, given the composition of Donald Trump's administration, is going to be by the billionaires and for the billionaires. That is what it is all about. He is not just breaking his promises. It would be one thing if egg prices had not gone down. It would be one thing if the price of energy had not got down. It would be one thing if rents had not gone down. But they are skyrocketing. And Donald Trump does not care. As long as he gets to play fake tough machismo guy, he does not care. He is willing to screw you over, as he always does in every opportunity in his life, to make himself feel good, to act on his vengeance, and to help his billionaire buddies. That is ultimately what it comes down to, that he is not breaking his promises. He is actively going back on them. He is trying to betray you. That is what we have to communicate to voters, and it is what we are going to hammer home every single day on this show. It is the important messaging that we have to get out, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, you can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.